You first. What do we need?
A bonnet for a fragile face! You swing!
All right, here I go. Your turn. Nice. We all lose things. Our pasts, our friends, our minds. But we keep going. Keep fixing ourselves when we break. We may never be perfect.
That's enough for now. Come on in. Tell me about your day.
But we can get close enough.
Yep, you read the title right. Every single criticism when you mention Borderlands 3 is always going to mention the terrible writing when it comes to the main story. Ava, Tyreen, Troy, just how they treated the old school Borderlands characters. But I wanted to kind of shine the light on the better parts of the Borderlands 3 storyline and writing. Because I know everybody in the community, including myself, has always said the story in Borderlands 2 is way better than Borderlands 3. And on a very broad scale, yeah, I do agree. Overall, the writing style was better. But I think Borderlands 3 gets a little bit of unnecessary hate in the department of writing, but not for the reasons you think. I do think the main story specifically in Borderlands 3 was the worst parts of Borderlands 3's writing. When we transition into the side quests of Borderlands 3 and the echo logs, it is a completely different story, and I would argue some of those stories that are within the side quests of Borderlands 3 and the echo logs are miles better than what Borderlands 2 had to offer from a story base. Sure, did Borderlands 2 have great story moments that showed a lot of emotion, like the ending of Dragon Keep? I mean, I cried. I won't lie. I think that was really, really well done, showing the 5 stages of grief that are displayed perfectly with that DLC. And I think that's the major thing that people are confusing with storyline in these games. There's a difference between emotional stories and good stories. It's really hard to make a good story emotional, but it's pretty easy to make an emotional story good, if that makes sense. But that's usually a good philosophy. As you saw in the introductory clip, the Fantastic Fustercluck DLC for Krieg was probably one of the shortest pieces of DLC content we ever got, and it's kind of surprising that we paid that much for it. And I know they say COVID, whatever, all that nonsense, but I will have to say when it comes down to that DLC, other than the content, the story was pretty phenomenal, and I would almost argue it's on par or better than Assault on Dragon Keep in terms of raw storyline. But not only that, in the Guns, Love, and Tentacles DLC, you find this man at the bar, and he blames the death of his daughter on himself, so you basically go on this very long side quest in order to find what really happened with his daughter, and you end up meeting her in spirit form. And this whole side quest, I got to play through it last night when I wasn't recording. Luckily, there's another YouTuber that posted the entire thing, and I have to say, I'm not a father yet, but from the perspective of a father, I could see this hitting 200 times harder than it hit me, because eventually you find her spirit and bring her back to him, and they finally get to meet up. They go back and forth with some dialogue where eventually the father says he basically takes blame, he takes fault, and the daughter says, I forgive you, and that puts her spirit at rest, which allows her to leave him again. It's a very bittersweet story. It's a really sweet story. I will play the actual cutscene right now.
Please, tell me she's safe now. Tell me she's at peace.
Come on down from that perch. There's someone who wants to talk to you.
Huh? Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you. I couldn't save you.
It's okay, Papa. Don't cry.
No, it's not okay. It's never gonna be okay. Because you're gone. I'm so sorry.
I forgive you, Papa. And I think I can leave now.
No.
I love you, Papa.
I love you too, sweetie. Always.
It's a little bit of a tearjerker. And we also have another example of this in Borderlands 3, where you find a girl that's disabled in a wheelchair that's basically very depressed and on the verge of just not wanting to be here anymore. And the annoying character, Claptrap, decides to dance with her in a nice little segment of just showing love to somebody that really needs it. And even the echologs, there's echologs that show the final conversations between Krieg and Maya before they finally set off. And one of Maya's last words was, "Don't worry, big guy, I will see you again. I promise." That was literally her last words to Krieg, and that's very bittersweet as well. We know how the whole Krieg and Maya ending went, and all these story beats in Borderlands 3 are so well done that it almost doesn't feel like the same team of writers wrote all these side quests and echologs as the main writing of the story, which is very unfortunate, because if the amount of effort that went into these side quests and these echologs was in the main story, we would have competition for Handsome Jack, if I'm being completely honest. The issue with it is the main story specifically, and I don't think people give the rest of the game enough writing credits. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe the same exact writer wrote the main story and all the side quests, but whatever person at Gearbox is writing these side quests that elicit so much emotion and great storyline, give them a freaking raise, dude. Put them on the main story team if that's what you have to do. Borderlands 3 is like, oh, God Queen, Tyreen, Maya got killed by a Twitch streamer, which is all correct. I'm not at all here making this video to defend the horrible main story, but I can be here and defend the fact that the rest of the game's writing is pretty damn great. I have been playing Borderlands 3 a lot more recently, and I kind of have a new perspective on a lot of things now that I'm not mainly only playing for content at a certain point, and I get to do things at my own pace, enjoy myself, replay certain things with, you know, the game volume on and experience it once again. There's a lot of things in Borderlands 3 that I think we did not appreciate as much as we should. Now, I don't want to make this a whole conversation of Borderlands 2 versus Borderlands 3, because I know it always does dwindle down to that, and if you just want my honest perspective, I'll give it to you. Borderlands 2 is still better for me overall as a game, but I can't lie, Borderlands 3's gameplay is just miles above Borderlands 2. And really quick, I do want to bring up the funeral cutscene with Ava, because I feel like it's another important story point. When I brought up the fact earlier about eliciting emotion in the player, I think they tried their best to do that with the Ava situation, but it was just very bad. When everybody on Sanctuary 3 meets up after Ava gets Maya killed, I'm still firm by that, thank you. Basically, everyone's gathered around and they're kind of sad. You give Ava a little pep talk and then you're kind of back onto your day. If the funeral cutscene was in the game, I feel like that would have helped the story a little bit in terms of eliciting emotional response and connection with the player, because then you grow that connection to Ava to where, wow, she's been a spoiled brat the whole game. She just killed one of my favorite characters in the series, and now she's just saying, "Figure it out, Lilith, you're the Firehawk." That is basically our main interpretation of Ava. But if we had that funeral cutscene where it's actually showing that she's going through grief, it's a whole different story, because it shows a very important thing that Gearbox has been missing the mark on recently, and that is character development. No character in Borderlands 3 just started off as very likable and awesome. Even the Borderlands 1 cast was pretty damn boring in Borderlands 1, and I mean, some of them had quirks. TK Baha was kind of cool from the get-go. Marcus was just an asshole from the get-go. He wasn't funny until Borderlands 2. And when you have these characters with character development and that you have them grow throughout the story, it builds more connection and more defensible actions. I mean, who's going to really defend Ava without that funeral cutscene? She's still just a spoiled brat and just poorly written. But I mean, that funeral cutscene on top of some other things could have made Ava a pretty redemptional character to the point where we would actually be cheering her on at the end of Borderlands 3 and not despising the fact that she has Maya's powers and the keys to Sanctuary are all in this, 14, 15-year-old girl's hands that we don't even like. So the main story of Borderlands 4 probably isn't going to be too great unless they really change things up and give Ava a quote-unquote redemption arc to the point where she's actually likable. And I know I could go into the writing with the green crystal in New Tales from the Borderlands, but I'm not going to get into that in today's video. I want to kind of focus on Borderlands 3 and show some positivity towards Borderlands 3's writing, because it definitely does have it. If you don't believe me, load up Borderlands 3, go play some side quests, certain side quests in this game, turn on the audio, listen to the dialogue, and see all the things that are happening. And honestly, you might be surprised with how well thought out and well written some of these side quests are. And listen to some echologs on YouTube. Some of the echologs are crazy as well, but it really pisses me off that all these things are locked behind things that the general player probably won't do. The more casual audience of Borderlands 3 will not look for these echologs for hours on end or Google them them, or they won't do certain side quests because they're already max level. So with Borderlands 4, I hope they give the writing more of a shout out in terms of side quests and finding collectibles, and make it a little bit more obvious so people can experience the full story of these games. I just want to make this quick video and let you guys know that the writing in Borderlands 3 isn't so bad as we all think, and maybe we should just revisit it and take a look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm huffing the copium, but I've played a lot of quests in the past few days that really made me second guess the writing potential of Borderlands. Let me know in the comments down below if I'm just on copium, or let me know if you guys have any other quests that you think are really well written in Borderlands 3. Do you think Borderlands 3's side quests are well written? Do you agree with that statement, or do you think that Borderlands 3 just was an overall cringe fest? In the next video, I'm probably going to talk about the whole woke subject on Borderlands, because I had made a community poll, and I do advise you, if you want to participate and possibly see your comment featured in a next video, check out that community poll on my YouTube channel, because I'm going to go over that, because I know it's a pretty touchy subject, but I feel like I am the right person to break down the entire topic. Anyway, hit the like button down below if you do want to support me and my Borderlands content, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on another Borderlands video from me, guys. Stay safe, and I will see you all later.